Hello, hello. Welcome to the first ever episode or installment of Lifecycle Pitch. I am Brian, and we have
Drew Price.
Andy King.
hello, hello. Okay, so backstory behind this. Number one, we are not Netflix. Number two, we're not working with Netflix right now. But number three, we are lifecycle people who do lifecycle marketing. We've been doing it for a long time, for, I don't know, 10, 20 years. Anyway, we do this stuff all day, every day. And lifecycle pitch is us picking a brand, and then we go and come up with like crazy ideas that we think could be effective for that brand's life cycle. And when we say life cycle, what we mean is the automated messages throughout the customer journey to increase conversion, retention, and expansion metrics. So we picked Netflix and we prepared this life cycle pitch with 5 email concepts that we think would just do really well for Netflix. And so here we want to talk through those. But I think kind of even taking one more step back of the why behind this, a lot of content that we see on the internet is, I would say it's value like detracting, right? It's people will pick something and say, hey, here's why. They'll tear it down. They'll say, this is why this thing is really bad. This is why they should have done this better. And I think one thing of my take is being someone who does this every day is when you look at someone else's work, like you don't know the why behind it or like how it's performing. So when people just take a natural posture of like, hey, we're just going to pick something and tear it down and criticize it and then just how they would make it better, I don't think it's actually helpful. So part of the reason that we're doing lifecycle pitch is it's generative. It's like, hey, we want to value add and come up with ideas and throw stuff into the mix that could make Netflix better or even give other lifecycle people ideas. So that's why I was personally excited to do this. And then Netflix is just one of my favorite brands. So stoked on it. And anything else you guys want to add before we hop into the emails?
That's beautiful, Brian. I think the only thing that I wanted to add is sometimes it's fun just to do something for the passion behind it and to take a big swing. So as you mentioned, we are not commissioned by Netflix. We just wanted to give our big swings on what we would do if we were leading Lifecycle at Netflix or what we would try to conjure up if we were there. And it's a lot of fun as a passion project.
And Netflix, if you do want to work with us, we can totally do this stuff. This is our bread and butter. So anyway, yes, we want to work with you. And it's also passion because we love your brand. Okay. Oh yeah, I forgot. Quick intros for each of us. I'm Brian. My thing is called Automate, OTTO, MATE. Do lifecycle strategy and execution. Done it for over 10 years, over 20 for brands, all different industries and stuff. Love the dynamic and personalized stuff, which you'll see a lot of today. And yeah, that's me.
Great. Hi, I'm Drew. I led lifecycle marketing at Grammarly for about 6 years. I've done email for 20 years. And I do a lot of fractional work these days and also manage a community of lifecycle marketing experts called Journey People.
Hey, I'm Andy King. I've also been in email for coming up on 20 years as well. I am the founder of emaillove.com and Email Stack, and we make email products and tools. And we also have a fun email community over at emaillove.com. So check that out.
Awesome. All right, let's hop into the lifecycle pitch. All right, so Andy, can you zoom out real quick? I just want to give people a sense of what we did. So we have 5 concepts, and what you see on the bottom is our creative process, right? So like we came up with ideas that we thought would be effective, and we have 5 we're gonna share with you today. And then we just sketched them out on paper. Like, what could this look like structurally? And then from there, Andy worked his magic and turned them into actual designs. And then we refined the copy, chatted through like some final strategy stuff, made changes, and then we got the concepts for you today. So let's hop up to the 5. So at a high level, the 5, let's just name them, and then we'll go one by one, and we'll each give our take on them and why. So number 1 is exclusive content. The second is my top 10. The third is what friends watch. The fourth is travel the globe. And then 5 is biggest fan. Let's hop in with exclusive content. Drew, do you want to take this one? I think you might have came up with this one, or did I?
Sure, yeah. And actually, one other zoomed out thing, I know you define lifecycle marketing, but we're coming at this from a growth perspective, right? We're talking about improving engagement rates, improving LTV, kind of like a product growth and marketing hybrid approach with all of this. So oftentimes it's using marketing channels to do product type innovation. So just wanted to add that piece and then say, yeah, for exclusive content, the inspiration for this, it might be our most straightforward concept, but there's so many Easter eggs or undiscovered content that you may not notice in like tabs within the product ecosystem within Netflix and other streaming providers. So it could be director commentary, it could be behind the scenes, it could be talk tracks, interviews, etc. Sometimes that stuff comes after the end credits. Sometimes, like I said, it's hidden in the tab. So this is meant to be I don't know if retargeting would be the right word, but what would you all call something where you've consumed all the content and then this would be a trigger?
I kind of just say like a deeper engagement, like triggered thing.
Deeper engagement trigger. Andy, anything to add there?
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's targeted at someone that has watched Money Heist in this case. So, we know what they're interested in. And in this case, we have additional content to recommend to them. It could also be maybe recommended, like other, not Money Heist show, like commentary, but it could be shows that are relevant or similar to Money Heist.
Yep. Well said. Yeah, we could expand, use it for discoverability of like the next thing, as well as making sure you got every nook and cranny of content from the series that you finished. And I'll just briefly say, targeting wise, ideally you're so dialed in that whether someone consumed these materials, not just the series itself. So the more precise, the better. We don't want to over target or under target. So just like hone in on those targeting criterias. Maybe this goes out the next day after they've finished the last piece of content, maybe within hours, maybe a week later, if they are not showing any product engagement and you want to get them back in. There's so many ways you could go about testing it or implementing it. So simple in concept, yet as a Netflix user for years and years, I've never received something like this, and it seems like it could add value.
The other thing I'll add is I scroll Netflix looking for something new to watch all the time, and I never get an email saying, hey, here are other shows that might be like relevant or interesting to you. Instead, I feel like a lot of people could spend hours just searching for the next show. So this would be super helpful from a user perspective, right?
For sure. And I am a huge La Casa de Papel Money Heist fan, so I've watched all this stuff personally. I think that's why I picked it when we sketched this one out. But yeah, I watch all this stuff, behind the scenes, director commentary, love all this.
Mm-hmm. And I have not seen this series, although I want to.
Dude, it's the best. It's the best. It's intense.
It looks intense. One thing I wanted to add is, and you kind of are implying it there, both of you, but Netflix does not send a lot of email, best I can tell. So, one thing that can happen when you're doing so well and you're so massive is you kind of rest on your laurels a little bit. So part of what we're also talking about is underserved audiences, or, you can test these things against this concept in particular, engaged audiences. But as we go through the other concepts, we'll talk about whether it makes sense for active users, inactive users, win back, etc. So that's something I want to make sure that we touch on.
Let's do it. All right, we want to hop to the next one. I'll take this one. This one's called My Top 10. And the problem that this email is solving is, have you ever been in a conversation with a friend where you're like, hey, what's your favorite stuff on Netflix, right? And then what they do is they like start thinking, and maybe they'll come up with like one or two things that are top of mind. So what My Top 10 is something that solves that problem, where they could just like send their top 10 to a friend. So here's the experience around this. It would actually be a product update first, and then it would be something that surfaces in Lifecycle messages. The reason that this is important is one thing that we've kind of touched on a little bit is there's such value and power in bringing the product experience to the inbox and aligning product and lifecycle. So a lot of the work that we do in our different practices and with clients is not, when we think lifecycle, we're not just thinking like marketing messages with value props and trying to get people to go to a certain page. We're thinking of how do we bring the product experience to the inbox? How do we align product and lifecycle completely so that it just feels like one and the same as a cohesive experience to the user? And so this is a concept that really brings that to life. So the way that it would work is within Netflix, the product, someone would make their top 10. And then this is the email that they would get afterwards. So Andy, if you want to zoom out real quick and then we'll zoom back in. So like it's pretty lengthy, right? So like this one is Drew's top 10. Okay, let's hop up back to the top. So when Drew completes his top 10 list, it's like, hey, you finished picking your top 10 Netflix favorites. Now let's share them with your family and friends. So if you scroll down, you'll see all 10 that he added to his list. And then from there at the bottom, we have CTAs to copy the link, post it on Twitter, X, or share on Instagram. And so with something like this, with the, I don't know, is it billions now or just the millions and millions and millions of Netflix users? Like imagine millions and millions of people making their top 10 and then getting this email. The sharing on social would just be insane. I personally could picture this being bigger and on a more consistent basis than like a Spotify Wrap, which is just a once a year thing. Anytime someone makes their top 10 or anytime someone asks them what's their favorite stuff on Netflix, they're going to be like, great, I'll go make my top 10 and just share it with them. So this would get people like, I think this is the best way to make Netflix social and actually influence real conversations and in daily life and have it surface more there. So my top 10, they make it in the product, they get this and they share it with friends. And then the growth loop and the usage and the word of mouth just skyrockets everywhere. I personally want this too. I would be obsessed with this. Like,
I would use this for sure.
Yeah. Why? Why would you personally use it? I'm curious.
Because I'm always looking for, like I kind of mentioned, always looking for new show ideas. I've watched everything that I feel like is good on Netflix, and I definitely have had those conversations with friends where I'm like, oh, what are you guys watching? Like, what are some good shows that you have? And you're right, they'll come up with like maybe one or two ideas, and then that'll be it. So I can definitely see this being a useful link that people would actually share over and over again potentially.
For sure.
Yeah, I think it gets after the paradox of choice, which is it's an overwhelming experience, even though Netflix does recommendations so well and it's very dynamic. The product itself, the experience can be very overwhelming. So many SKUs, always updating. So I could see ways in which this would become over time integrated in the product as you engage more and more. Maybe it's not just certain trends in the rows, but also my friends start to show up as rows themselves. And I think that would be really a great way to interact with it.
Well, we have a concept for that coming up. All right, cool. I feeling good about that one. Let's hop to the next one. Oh my gosh, what friends watch. Boom. This one can be borderline creepy, but I think there's some product settings stuff we can do. Oh no, did my copy not update? Anyway, so there's lorem ipsum copy in here. It's all good. You guys want to tag team this one? All right, you want me to kick it off? What do we want to do?
You can keep going, Brian.
Okay, I'll get this one going. Okay, so this concept is called What Friends Watch. And I think there's the My Top 10 thing. So there's the what's your favorite stuff on Netflix. And then What Friends Watch is like, what are you watching right now? Like for my close friends, I want to know what they watched last night, but I also don't want to ask them, right? So what Friends Watch, the concept behind this is that you can add people to your friends list and they would like give the green light for this and all of that. And you would get automated updates about what they're watching. And so in this case, it's like there's Brian, Drew, and Andy. So-and-so user has signed up for updates from us. And then they'll get this email on, I don't know, probably like a weekly basis that shows everything that we watched like that week or the stuff we've watched recently. So like Drew was saying, like this could be a row within the context of Netflix, but also it can be an email that's delivered via Lifecycle. And then the thinking here is this just solves the problem of like, what are your friends watching right now? And it kind of gets ahead of that conversation even. And I think one nuancy thing with Netflix stuff is like my list of stuff to watch, I have like 30 things on it. But oftentimes the thing that'll get me across the line to watch something is if a friend says, hey, that was good. Hey, I liked it. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? Like this, it's like, I'm like, oh, that looks interesting. And Netflix recommended it to me because their algorithm's so good. But if a friend's just like, that show is awesome, then that'll get me across the line. So this that nuancy, like just real life thing is productized in this, right? And so I think the important thing is for this not to be creepy, is that people need to opt in and they need to choose. So like, I would not have this with 50 people. I would not sign up for what my friends are watching for even 10 people. I'd probably pick like 5 who I really want to know what they're watching and then limit it to that. So in that way, it makes Netflix stuff more intimate as well. And then also connects people with their closer friends or their closest friends and family. And then they can also have conversations around this stuff. So I can be like, oh my gosh, like Drew, Andy, you guys are in a murder mysteries right now. Like, what's up? Like, what's the backstory there? I didn't know that. Like, why are you into Christmas specials? This looks like Lifetime movie kind of stuff. What do these do for you? Anyway, so like this one can be really fun and spark conversations with friends and family. And again, it would be a product update that also lives in Lifecycle and aligns them and bring that product experience to the inbox. Anything y'all would add for this one?
My question is, can I control what goes in here? Because what if I watch something embarrassing and I don't want Brian and Drew to know that I watched Love is Blind season 4 like 5 times or something like this?
I would say no, don't control it, because and I think like that's part of the reason of like having it just be close friends is like, I don't know.
Yeah, you
like,
don't care. You don't care who plays it or not. Yeah. I get it.
Like, dude, are you watching Love is Blind again? You know what I mean? So it's like, that thing.
The other
so
thing that'll come up is I have kids, so like, you know, something like kids stuff was probably dominate in my list for example. It'll be like Blacklist, and then it'll be like Pokemon, Blacklist, and it'll be like a really weird collection of things. Kind of like on Spotify, you might have rock, but then it's mixed in with like the Wiggles and like kids songs, like so.
My kids have a separate profile on our Netflix because like, I don't want them polluting my algorithm like they did on Spotify.
Yeah. Exactly.
Couple other thoughts to riff a bit on this, which I love the idea. So, and it's not that far away from like
Spotify. And tear it apart too, like whatever we don't like. I mean, let's rip into that too. It's great. Anyway,
oh yeah, totally. So like Spotify, right? They kind of were famous for doing a lot of this at the beginning. You would register with your Facebook profile and all that. And Venmo, you get people like there's that nice big brother invasive aspect that certain generations love about Venmo. So I think that there's absolutely a place for this in the Netflix ecosystem. I'm sure they've had many internal conversations and concepts, but the opt-in feels really important. A couple of thoughts about execution here is one, yes, you could have a weekly default email, but you could also make rules of like, don't send if someone was in the product in the last few days, especially if this is showing up in the product as well, if it's like multi-channel product and email. Again, it's like an engagement mechanism if you're not engaging, and also if you don't have access to this content, which, pros and cons, you could test it. You could test it in the different channels and all that. But more importantly about the content itself, one feature idea is it'd be really cool to see, not that I engage with rating content on Netflix very often, but to see individuals rating. So I would get Brian's your star rating of Sherlock and everything as it's coming in. So I get that rich feedback and not just aggregate feedback that is usually what you see.
That's awesome. Yeah, like the 2 thumbs up thing, the 1 thumb up thing, and then down. Yeah.
Some feedback, or even like go really old school, like forward to a friend, where people could add comments and like we bring in that live text into the email, something along those lines.
Love it. All right, let's hop to the next one. How many we got left? I think we got 2 more left.
Yeah, 2 more.
Oh my gosh, this one's so fun. This one's called Travel the Globe. Okay, so the main concept behind Travel the Globe is, what are people in other countries watching? And I get there's probably licensing stuff, blah, blah, blah. Who cares? It's like, figure that out. This would be so cool. Okay, so what it would be is, so like say I live in LA, right? I just see stuff in America. And yeah, there's a ton of K-dramas that are coming up on American Netflix. Totally cool. But the big question is like, what are people in Korea watching like today? And then if you're interested in other countries, like scroll down. It's like, what are people in Australia watching? What are people in France watching? And the main thinking behind this is like, we all live in our own little cultural bubbles, right? And even though there's like stuff from different countries into like American Netflix and all of that, what this is, it's like, what is this group of people in a completely different place? What are they focused on and what are they watching? And you know what? It may be some American stuff, maybe stuff from their own country, maybe stuff from other countries, but it's just more of like a cultural consciousness thing. I think the way I think about it is, you know how a big show will come out on Netflix and then all of a sudden everyone is talking about it. They're like, have you watched, I don't know, like what's something that comes to mind recently? Gosh, I can think of like a K-drama that was really big, like Queen of Tears, right? Like Queen of Tears is super popular. And then like, it's like, who's watching it? Who's watching that? When's the next episode coming out, etc. But anyway, that would be big in America or South Korea or whatever. But then like, what's a cultural consciousness and what's like top of mind in these other countries too? So this would just be a super fun one to expand our view of the world, to embrace like the 1-inch thing at the bottom of the screens, like with subtitles that helps us see different perspectives, and also just engages with other stuff that people like, because the world is just bigger than the individual countries that we're in.
That makes me think maybe there's some kind of analysis that they do under here saying like people in South Korea love like crime shows right now. Like that's like trending in that country, and in Australia it's completely different. It's like comedies or like light drama, like dramas or something like this. It could be some additional kind of
like little stats and stuff. That's
yeah,
cool.
it's like, yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I love that idea. This is great. I mean, I think this is really compelling. I would passively be entertained by this even when I'm not actively engaging with it. It's just refreshing content to get to all your points. And then yeah, to Andy's point, I think you could go deeper and get into like facts, like very dynamic facts from the week about specific countries. Could be interesting context to share. So I really like it. And maybe it's the call to actions, that's the assumption of like, yeah, somebody might be ready to watch something right now and they'd go directly into the product, right? Is that?
Yeah, so I guess get amongst it is an Australian thing. I totally just Googled it. I was like, what's get amongst it? I was like, I've never used among in my whole life. I mean, anyway, so it's an Australian thing, and you totally put it in. That's awesome. I think a couple different things, right? So we have the 4 that are showing. It may be tricky on the dev side to like make each of those individually clickable. I mean, it's totally doable, but like easiest straight path forward would just be to click the button and then go to like the Australia kind of line, right? And then they could see everything, like if the 4 is not interesting enough. And then also like maybe a case about not making the individual ones clickable is people don't get to see the descriptions. They don't get to see like the preview. So like get amongst it. They would just go see everything, and it would just get them in the typical Netflix flow where they see all the covers and then they click on something and then read descriptions and watch the little trailer, and then they go from there. So cool. Either could work, I think.
Sweet. Yeah, that makes sense. And part of where I was going with that is I wonder does Netflix have a queue functionality? Like I wonder if there's a secondary CTA, like individual titles in some of these concepts where you could add something to a queue to watch later directly from the email, or, you know, the landing page gets the attributes, something along those lines.
Yeah, it's just it's just the my list thing right now. So not like a queue thing. It's just like a my list. Queue is actually interesting. I didn't think about that.
Free ideas, Netflix. Free ideas all day.
So I just want to reiterate, Netflix, we make this stuff all the time. We can do it for you. Let's figure it out. We have devs. Andy's a designer. These are, Andy, do you want to give a little context on like, you can turn these into code like right now, right?
These are ready to go, coded emails using the Email Love Figma plugin.
Wait, how did you do that? Can you explain that? That's so cool.
Yeah, so what we're showing now is Figma, and emaillove.com has a Figma plugin where you can design emails and then export them as responsive, accessible email HTML directly from Figma. So all of this is selectable, live text. It's all, you know, it's basically ready to go and ready for you to play with right now if you want to.
Translation, we can ship these for you today. Just pick up a phone calls. Okay, next one. We got one more left. Let's do it.
Yeah. This one's cool. I like this.
What do we call this one? Can you go?
Biggest fan.
Biggest fan. Okay, cool. All right. So the thinking behind this one, it's kind of like a little bit of Spotify rap stuff, not gonna lie. Like translated to Netflix context and just bringing stats behind your stuff. So you watch Cobra Kai, coolest show on Netflix right now. More than 99.5% of other Netflix subscribers this week. This is me. I watched the last episode of this second part probably like 20 times. Okay, so I would get this. And then like your official honorary student Miyagi-Do, who's earned your spot in the Sekai Taikai. Okay, so it's like personalized copy for that particular show. So there'd be like, I don't know, how big is Netflix's catalog? There'd be like hundreds of thousands of versions of this. So this whole thing would need to be dynamic, both like the header image, the percentage, the copy underneath, like all of that stuff. But then it's also a point of pride, right? Like share on Instagram, post on X. With Cobra Kai specifically, like the fandom is just crazy. And there's a ton of chatter about it on social channels. So sharing this on Instagram, post on X would actually be like a fun flex for people within the Cobra Kai show lovers who like love the show and want to share how much they're into it. And then so you do this for every show, right? It's like when Breaking Bad was a huge thing. It's like who watched it more than everybody else that week, right? And that could even like spark the chatter that's already happening around a popular show.
Mm-hmm. For sure. It'd be interesting. My wheels are turning a little bit on long-term retention in LTV of like these are power users today, right? They're at least power users of certain IP. So how could you do some kind of surprise and delight other than just acknowledging them, which is already great?
Yeah.
Assuming that this, for some people this might be loaded, right? They might be like, "Ooh, all I've been doing is binging." That's a
good point. Yeah.
But maybe you get some swag, something signed from the cast. Like you start to do like these little loyalty type programs around this. And this is just like the tip of the iceberg. So rewarding power users, acknowledging power users, but ultimately, we're also in the experimental world. Like you do this stuff with holdback groups, you do it longitudinally, you try different variations of it given your huge audience size, and you're looking for win-wins, right? Make your best users even bigger fans of Netflix and try to improve LTV as well. So I think there's something more there to do.
Yeah, I think of the in-person stuff. So like let's say another season comes out or there's like a big event in person. Like if Netflix was like, hey, we're actually going to invite the top 0.5% of people who've watched this over all time. They know who those people are. So like you get an email in your inbox that's like, hey, you're invited to the Cobra Kai thing in LA. It's like, oh my God, like that top 5% is just going to go nuts. And then that's just one show, right? So it's like it creates in-person opportunities, it creates event stuff, it creates swag things that they can do. Like there's just this data is so rich, and Netflix people already know that already, but like you can just take it even further with all the cool stuff you can do like beyond that as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, great points.
All right, so let's zoom out. I think for people watching this, like I think I would say like let's get some participation. Like, let us know. I don't know, we'll probably post this on LinkedIn or YouTube or something. We'll figure all that out. But like, what concept are you into? Like, what do you personally like? Like, would you as a Netflix user use? For Lifecycle people, like, what do you think would like take off like crazy? What do you think would be the hardest to implement? All these are totally doable. I don't know. Just curious what people think about these. We had a lot of fun making them, and would love to see them like brought to life and could help bring them to life too. So I think these could be really impactful for Netflix's product and also its life cycle. So had a lot of fun making these, and I don't know, maybe we'll do this for some other brands too.
Is also let us know which other brands you would like us to tackle. And then big shout out to Andy for the design work.
100%.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. Shout out to the Email Love Figma plugin, which I've now used with multiple clients. I think Brian, you've used it as well. Is that right?
Yep.
It
For
actually,
like a hard dynamic email that usually would have taken weeks, and then it was done in like a couple of days. And I was like, Andy, is this real? Is this real? So shout out to Email Love and the Figma plugin for sure.
Appreciate it. Thank you. We'll probably post this. I'm thinking of posting the Figma file on our Figma community page, if that's okay with you guys. Because 100%. You can, like as I mentioned, you can play around with these templates. Are all built and compatible with the plugin, and it's pretty cool to check out. So,
by the way, should we load these in an ESPN and cold email them to some of the Netflix C-level folks?
Let's do it. They'll be like, "Is this real?"
Yeah, this is great. This is great.
We could get a job, or we could get sued. Who knows? I'm just kidding. Cool. All right. Well, first episode of Lifecycle Pitch, Netflix. I think it's done. You guys got any final thoughts, comments, fun stuff?
Genuinely, this is fun. I think I didn't do a good job of saying it at the beginning, but like this is the stuff like I love working on. Brian, I think you're the same way.
Yeah.
And I imagine you would prefer working on big concepts versus always doing welcome emails or abandoned, like just there's so much of our time is on kind of like the normal playbook stuff. It's a lot of fun to work on new programs and unique concepts.
Yeah, let's speak to that for 1 second. We can end on this. So we with the three of us amongst our chatter about all this stuff, we call these big swings. So the problem that most companies do or try and solve is they just they'll make their welcome series, they'll make the activation series, they'll make an engagement thing, right? But what a big swing is something that is a big swing for both the products, it's a big swing for Lifecycle, it's a big swing for the email channel or wherever else you're really focused on. And it's something that is completely out of the context of typical marketing experience or a typical welcome series. So these concepts, my top 10 with friends, I'll travel the globe, biggest fan, exclusive content, these are things that are trying to push it, right? They're trying to push engagement, trying to push the channel, trying to push what's possible. It's a big swing. And it's a big swing, and you're not going to bat 1,000 every single time, but you're taking a big swing that could have a really high impact on the business, especially if it works, right? So even zeroing in on my top 10, that could be millions and millions and millions and millions of social shares. That could be millions and millions of more people engaging with Netflix on a regular basis. That could increase the stock price like crazy, or it could not even work at all, but it's a big swing, right? And so that's the stuff that we're uniquely positioned to do and have done a lot, and where we always push brands. So if you're a brand looking to do Lifecycle and interested in doing big swings, get inspiration from stuff like this and really push your thinking beyond the typical marketing stuff, beyond the typical flows that you need to make, and take some big swings and see how they do. And let us know how we can help along the way.
Mm-hmm. And one last thought on that. A lot of what happens is organizations, they spend less time developing things that are most scalable and automated, and way more time on something like a one-off product update. And they're working internally, having so many meetings, so many exchanges of hands for a one-off email. And then it ends up being shipping with a mistake because it's something fell through the cracks because there's just too many cooks in the kitchen. And then it's done. But these programs are all reoccurring, scalable programs, that would be automated or at least semi-automated. And so something for all of us to keep in mind is how much investment we put in. Well, let's just get that welcome flow done really quickly. But it's long tail dividends. Reoccurring programs can be massively impactful for not just quantifiable results, but also for sentiment and qualitative improvement. So just think about how much time you're spending on those one-off product announcements and emails versus this kind of stuff.
100%. Let's keep that in because that's 100% real life. And we see that all the time. And these are just better bets to make. And I don't know why. Maybe we'll talk about that another time. Why do people spend so much time focusing on the one-off stuff? It drives me crazy. Well, because this is the valuable stuff, that can scale. Anyway, cool. All right. Thank you, everyone, for watching our first Lifecycle pitch. We'll talk to you later.
Thank you.
Okay. Bye.